We're waiting for somebody online. We will have other presenters come later on. Right now, I would request Solomon to move us to the next presentation of B. That will be supported now by Martin. Martin, you're welcome.
Thank you. I think it's imperative that since you've been listening to testimony, that I give my testimony also. That I never had a chance to give a team of Bosco since I left in 2008 in 1 to 2 years. I'm the first project coordinator for Bosco Uganda. At the time when we didn't know how to call internet and never showed it, that was the challenge. And then when we had to struggle from changing the name Bosco Uganda from the name Bosco that we can turn Bosco and give it a local audience name. In 2008, I was a trainer for Bosco Uganda in Chope, Paboro, with a unique bicycle. But Bosco helped to do one thing. The trainings made me enhance my computer skills. And I was especially from a classroom setting where, in teacher college, we don't train the computer at our time, not even at at the time. But one day, as I was working on the computer, I always had this ambition to study abroad. And then, Bosco being a Catholic funded project, gave me access to many names of universities in America, but really had shared the same idea. So it pops up to me that there's the internet. I was anxious to learn more and more about internet. I had nothing to lose. And every evening from 5 to 8, I would be at the Bosco office. It regulated my fire education process. When I got the most interesting mail of my lifetime, and it read, "Congratulations, David Martin Adike. You've won yourself a scholarship for a Masters of Peace and Justice Studies, University of San Diego, which happens to be the third most beautiful university in America, but also the second best Catholic university in the US. And I finished my studies in Amba. So in a very special way, I listened to you, our student. You are exceptional. I heard you speak about the importance of the internet. I heard you speak about how you can integrate it in your life as a student. Keep on that internet because it can transform your life. It has transformed mine. So thank you so much. In our panel discussion today, in our panel discussion, we need to look at policies and regulations on operations of community networks. Again, many of the concepts that we speak about are uniquely new if you're not in the technical realm of ICT. But we have a few possibilities that are going to help us. Remotely, we are going to have Mike Jensen from Association for Progressive Communications that will form part of our panel. On our panel 2 from Uganda Communications Commission, Mujuni Arnold is also going to be on our panel. And from Bosco Uganda, we're going to have Akot Solomon from Bosco Uganda, who is the technical manager. I'm just going to ask for another chair to create our panel. And I'm going to ask for your due diligence to listen because thereafter we will open up our sessions for questions and answers and any clarifications that may be important. Ladies and gentlemen, we come from different facets of ICT. Clarifications are just one of those things that we specialize in, especially on community networks. We are not experts in everything, but there's an area we think we really know enough to share with you. So I'm going to ask both the presence as we set up Jensen to make his remark very remote. I'm going to ask for Arnold and Solomon to please come and take your seat on our panel discussion. If you need your presentations on PowerPoint, the gentleman who's going to be on now. Complementary agencies in the ICT development. There's a lot of document opportunities within the ICT facet of this country, so I'm going to be happy to introduce persons that I'm very acquainted with, and I'm going to ask that our presentation begins with Solomon, and then come to, so that just in case the need for UCC to regulate, he will find his natural obligation as a regulated body from what my good friend Solomon will do. Solomon,
once again, Mr. Martin Adike. Members, issues of community and the role of governance, because it's an interaction between different stakeholders. When you talk of governance, you have private sector, you have civil society organizations, and also you have the political wing. So as Bosco Uganda, we fall in the civil society organization. And part of it, we are also regulated by UCC. That is why in the presentation you were hearing certain aspects being mentioned about the issues of license and unlicensed frequency. So those are the things that we see. And then most of you have been following, I think, on the news and other social media, whereby there are some policies and there are some laws. For example, the cybercrime law of Uganda is there to guide and safeguard users of internet. So as Bosco Uganda, if we are operating with the communities, what should we do to protect communities? Because most of these laws is to protect the users and also to see that the users are not exploited. So as Bosco Uganda, from our bit, we are trying to do what is called a filtering of content, because there are certain content that are not supposed to be viewed, especially because we work with the youth and also young children in like schools and in the community. So things like access to pornography and other content which are misleading are supposed to be filtered at the point of entry for the internet. So as Bosco Uganda, we are trying to implement that to make, to fit in the laws that are there in the country. So one of the things that we are doing is regulation of content. You have heard the people from the camp have been talking about Colibri. Colibri is an offline content portal, but it also can be run as a local network. So that content is an educational content. You need to have these policies to guide the users and also Bosco as an implementing agency, so that when we take these computers and also we load this content, we don't violate by loading content that infringe on communities, like for example, bad music, videos, pornographic content. So if we are giving educational content, we need to stick to educational content and offer strictly educational content that does not break the law. So what we did, that content is being verified by Uganda Curriculum Development Center with the support of Ministry of Education. So the content that we take normally to the community are content that has been approved. However, we have challenges that sometimes there are some users who are already advanced in the uses of computer. For example, if you go in the camp, you find that you have even workers for other organizations. And sometimes they also come to these centers to print their work, to type their work, and they use flash disk. Sometimes they come with this content and also leave it in the computer. So as Bosco Uganda, our work is to sensitize these people and also to make the center management of these centers in the different places to put rules and regulation on those kind of content, and the people that come in the centers should be regulated. The other things that we see is the issues of lances. We have some freelancers space frequency that we are using. You heard me talk about TV white space. This is a technology that has been developed so that the frequencies that are not being used by the television companies can be given out for connectivity in other places. So this is something that is still an ongoing debate. I hope in the near future we shall be given that to operate on, because we have seen other countries like Tanzania already doing that, and we are aware that in Uganda we have migrated to digital television from analog. That's why the GoTV came in and others now are coming in. The other things that is there on the policy, I was privileged to also attend Internet Governance School just in September, and that one is, they are talking about coming together of all the stakeholders to see that when policies are being brought in, people contribute and they don't step over. Most people don't understand the policies. That is why sometimes they conflict with this policy. So since also UCC is here, I think there's no need for advocates so that these policies are understood at the ground level. Because if you make it's there, for us we can access online, but there are other people who don't even bother to check. So there's need to sensitize them, so that when they fall a victim of that, they fall while knowing that there's a policy on this. The other things that we also discussed there is about issues of human rights and digital rights. So when we talk about human rights, I don't. So those are the things that needs to be looked at. And that is why you see the government trying to come up with some policies. Actually, you have seen sometimes people who they are taken to court. So as stakeholders, we need to get to know all these things, so that we also sensitize the people who use this and community, so that they can use with dignity equipment. There are some equipment that community network in other countries can develop, and you will need them to come in the country. So still, how is the policies in Uganda favorable to community network, so that we don't go through a lot of procedures or even lots of tax? I remember at a certain point, there was no tax on imports of some of the ICT equipment. But at one point, those tax also came in. So as community network, these stakeholders should know that we don't make money. So why would we be given lots of tax? Why can we be given reduced amount of tax to be paid as a policy? Because we all know that if these things are not put on paper, they can never be implemented. You cannot go to UCC and say, I want the equipment to be imported, and they will ask you, what does the policy say? Then you just keep quiet. So we are advocating so that currently we have a community network in Argentina. They have produced a Libra mesh router, and they want to give it to other community network to test. This one is helping to create a mesh network within the rural area, because it has a dual polarity. It can be used as a receiver, also as an access point. That means it will be easy for community network to implement network, because the number of equipment that will be put in the community shall be reduced, hence also reducing cost of infrastructure, but also giving more service to the community. So those policies need to be looked at, and especially categorizing who are the telecommunication companies that are using internet for benefits, and what about the community network that are just offering service to improve the livelihood of the community? Should they be treated the same in terms of policy, or there should be a fair playing ground for this one who are not doing it for money, but they are also doing it to support the government initiative? I know internet is not only the initiative now that government of Uganda is doing, but it's a global call, and government of Uganda is contributing through that global call to see that coverage of internet is spread across the entire country. And then the regulation will come in definitely. While you are spreading, what are the rules? Okay? And this is why UCC and NETAU always come and say, connecting these people from this line to this needs wireless. From this area, you might need to use fiber. For this, and also, you cannot use technology which has not been approved and tested. So, these are the things that we need to be clarified, so that since community network, they develop a lot of innovative tools and equipment, they should be given a playground to test this equipment together with the support of UCC to see whether they are visible and they can be used in Uganda. Then issues of policy, how those things can come in, because after test now, we shall be able to determine that this thing can be used in the country and these are the effect or has no effect on the community. So for now, I think I can break here and continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my colleague from Bosco. Arnold Mojone, like they said, is my name, and I'm the manager technical monitoring of the Rural Communications Development Fund, which is a department under the Uganda Communications Commission, which is literally mandated to extend communication services to the underserved and unserved areas. So literally, we are stakeholders or partners with Bosco in the work that they are doing. And of course, I will need to, first of all, really appreciate, and this comes from my ED as well as my director, the Honorable Nyobi Tembo, the work of Bosco Uganda. We really, is the responsibility of our mother ministry, the Ministry of ICT, but we definitely do advise from time to time. We carry out consumer empowerment and capacity building, and we are glad to see that, of course, Bosco Uganda is carrying out a lot of consumer empowerment and capacity building when it comes to ICT, which is really something that we also greatly promote. The last but very important bit that really rhymes well with the work that Bosco is doing is the Rural Communication Development Fund, which, like I said, is mandated to extend communication services to the rural areas that Bosco Uganda is dealing with. And this fund ideally is, synergizing with what Bosco Uganda is doing. And our vision really is to see that connectivity is spread across the country, without disadvantaging anyone in terms of geographical region, whether it's race, gender, or physical disability. So literally what Bosco is pushing is what the RCDF really looks at, on a day-to-day basis. And in this, right now, we are working on a strategy, a 5-year strategy, which is the RCDF 3, whereby we are looking at 3 key areas. And this is broadband connectivity and access. Then there is content mediation, because just like one of our colleagues mentioned, having the infrastructure in place is one thing, but ensuring that there is content to enable usage and right usage is also very important. Once we have this content, like Colibri, like our partners have helped, UNICEF and the other partners, then we're able to also mitigate, the internet being misused. So that's also an area that we are concentrating on. And the last one, of course, is research and advocacy, which ideally is about really getting ways on how best we can get these services to the people and how well we can ensure that they remain very relevant to the people. So these are the key 3 areas. And essentially, the goals to these is to ensure that we try and, make the internet affordable. Affordability is still an issue, despite the fact that we've also come a long way, and I think we've been making good strides towards improving the affordability. Equity is another one, we've been talking about women. The other key group that we are very passionate about is the people with disabilities. We carried out a research sometime last year where we realized that 8% of the people with disabilities use computers, and only 16% of those ones are using the internet. So this is also a very
key area that we are trying to look at and see how well we can really bring these numbers up. So equity, affordability, connectivity, and access. We talked about the gadgets. It's also something that we are looking at. The smart phones, as well as the computers. So those are very important areas that we are looking at. Then maybe what I wanted to mention on RCDF is that we encourage collaborations, and would want, to really collaborate with entities like Bosco, and we also have a grants opportunity whereby entities like Bosco can apply for these grants to really extend these communication services across the country, because we believe that it's through partnerships that we can really do more. If Bosco is having the resources and maybe some other things that they can bring on the table, then we're able to partner with them to extend these services. So it's important that you also get to know about that, and we really collaborate more. So that is very important. But on our side, we've also tried to look at ways in which we can, extend the connectivity to the communities. And one of the biggest ways that we have ventured into, of course, is the computers to the secondary schools. Most of you might be aware of that. I think as of now, we've supplied computers to percent in the third year, and then after, the school should be able to continue paying, and sustaining that connectivity. So these are some of the initiatives that we are literally looking at trying to extend connectivity. But maybe again, I should mention as a commission, lots of recommendations have been talked about with regards to supporting the community networks. Like I said, UCC and specifically RCDF, we're really very, very passionate about these community networks. And yes, there is still quite some bit of work to do, but there is already something that has been done. The commission, essentially encourages technology neutrality. So we don't want to dictate use that equipment. Of course, in terms of the spectrum, we're having, we no longer have the case where 900 megahertz was strictly for GSM. We're having 900 B usage. Then there's a lot of work being done on spectrum. My colleague has mentioned something on the TV white spaces. Yes, it's something that the commission is really so much on. We have, then we have, we're trying to put very transparent and clear licensing, to ensure that, especially to support the backhaul, because transmission is really a challenge, especially towards reaching the rural areas. So we're trying to make licensing as transparent as we can to ensure that more capacity is delivered to the rural areas. And it's good, NITA through the national backbone infrastructure has done quite some bit of work. Of course, as I come to the end, there was something on infrastructure sharing. Like I said, we already have guidelines, but the enforcement or trying to ensure that the incumbents or telecom owners, don't really hike the prices to make community networks to offer subsidies to the tower companies. So that, once we offer a subsidy, then we can also dictate as to, the pricing that they would be able to, offer to the community network. So that is also something that we are greatly looking at. Cyber security, again, that one is very key, having the network, but we've had issues of misuse. And to be very honest, when it comes to cyber security, the laws, the policies, they're all there. We have the Computer Misuse Act, we have the Electronic Transactions Act, we have the National Information Security Strategy. So most of the laws are there, but the challenge that we have is about enforcement. And we've had issues that we're trying to deal with in terms of the skill set and tools of trying to investigate, because the investigations of cyber crimes can be a little bit complex. So we are trying to, work on that. There's also need to harmonize the laws, because we have a lot of laws in different jurisdictions that would definitely be dealing with that. But once they are not harmonized, then it becomes a problem dealing with those issues. So as stakeholders, government, UCC, with other different stakeholders, that discussion is there, because lots of challenges that we have had with social media. Of course, there are guidelines, but again, with those challenges, with unharmonized laws, it would be a problem. Capacity building, awareness by the population is very, very key, and we are also so much engaged in that. We have an industry affairs department that drives that. We've put in place consumer parliaments that we hold every year to ensure that the population is well informed about all these and the harms of cyber crimes. Then of course there's some entities that have issues with being static to change in terms of the technology evolutions, and that's where things like capacity building are very key. So I should say that most of these issues that we are grappling with are issues that are being looked at. Some guidelines are already with the minister, and he's processing them with Parliament, and others are in the process of being drafted. So, of course, the other thing I wanted to mention is that we don't have community regulations yet, but we have received feedback on that, and I believe, I know that that is something that is also being looked at to ensure that we see how to enable, community networks spread out countrywide. So, in a nutshell, that is what UCC is doing. Some things might take time because of the procedural nature, but I believe that working hand in hand, we should be able to really resolve most of these ones. Thank you very much.
And once again, ladies and gentlemen, it's not in our nature not to observe time, and we know the jams in our stomach could be biting. But let's hold it there and let's listen to Jensen, and we'll listen to it briefly and then we break out for our lunch. I hope you can hold it there. So.